Guys, stop for a minute. Take a look at your wallet. Your wallet says a lot about you. And let me ask you a question. Is it time for an upgrade? Our friends at Ridge are here to help you step up your pocket game. This incredible wallet is light, sleek, and industrial, but it doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge out of your back pocket. It goes into your front pocket. Ridge wallets hold up to 12 cards, plus all the cash that you need. You can choose from over 30 colors and styles. That includes carbon fiber and burnt titanium. It is the best wallet you can buy, and you don't just have to take my word for it because there's over 40,000 five-star reviews. I was skeptical at first, but once I tried it, I never went back, and I'm sure you won't, but guys, there's no pressure. Test it out for 45 days. If you don't love it, send it back, get a full refund. If you decide to keep it, and you will, there's a lifetime warranty. Go to ridge.com/Chael or just click the link in the description below and get 10% off with free worldwide shipping and returns. All right, Jake Paul, Eddie Hearn. Now, I talked to you guys last week. They were doing a press conference and those two had an impromptu bet. So when I came and spoke to you guys, I just simply said, I asked the question, can you do that? I don't actually know the rule on that. I know that Dana has only bet on a fight one time since he's been in the business, but it was in Japan and somebody else's organization when he brought his athlete, Chuck Liddell. I know Pete Rose had something to do with gambling. And I know John Anik told me one time, once I got this job, I don't bet on fights anymore. I don't know if it's an actual rule. I don't know if it's a policy or a rule. That's what I'm talking about. So I asked you, hey, can he make that bet? And when you're betting on your own guy, probably, but I brought it to you. And I also shared with you that I did not believe Eddie wanted to be in that position. The cameras were rolling. He's trying to promote something. He's got an ego like anybody. He agreed to it. But I thought he gave himself some room because he said we're going to have to get some paperwork together. He did some stuff to make sure that there was some room. Well, the fight ends. Eddie wins the bet. Eddie's girl wins. And Jake Paul said, no, I don't have to pay him. After the cameras were off when we went in the back, Eddie said, I don't want to do the bet. All right, fine. I'm simply giving you the answer to that, but Eddie and Jake were not partners. These two put on an interesting press conference. Then they even sat down with Errol Hawani in a piece that has been viewed 1 million times on YouTube. They had a very interesting sit down, and these two were not working together. This was real. And I like when Eddie speaks, right? Eddie's a real handsome guy. He always dresses real sharp. He's very well spoken, and he has a plan. Two things that are very rare in the boxing business. Like a fight broke out in Vegas at a press conference over the weekend. A fight, they are fighting, the police and the security, everybody's left their chair. Bob Arum was sitting on stage and said into a hot mic 3 times, what's happening? What is happening? Like you can't see what's going on. So when you get an Eddie Hearn, it's a very nice and pleasant surprise, is all I'm sharing with you. But Eddie sits down with Jake. And Eddie was doing his version to shoot straight, which was to tell Jake, you're not a very good boxer. You're average. Now, when Jake Paul is at his best, when he is doing his finest work, he is not doing impressions. He is not making faces. He's not wearing something silly. When Jake Paul is at his absolute best, he reveals to the audience that he's vulnerable, that he has feelings, and that he has an ego like anybody, and it bothered him. It hurt Jake's feelings. But Jake didn't hide that. He said to Eddie, how can you say this about me? I've never lost. Not only have I never lost, Eddie's contention, you're not a boxer. He said, what are you talking about? This is what I do. I'm selling out arenas. I'm licensed. I'm fighting guys. I'm making weight. I'm sacrificing twice a day. Not to mention, I've done it 4 times successfully, and I knocked them all out. And Eddie responded, yeah, but those weren't against boxers. Those weren't against real fighters. I apologize. Let me correct that. They weren't against real fighters. So Jake responded to that too. And Tyron Woodley is a multiple-time world champion. He's a multiple-time collegiate All-American. This is a very real guy. And Eddie dismissed it. He said, well, no, he's not a boxer. He's a very good fighter. He's not a boxer. So it's one of these things. And it really is a very tough spot. Like, what would Jake have to do to qualify to be in the club? And I don't know that answer. In the amateurs, it would be very clear. He could enter the Golden Gloves. He could enter state championships. He could enter national championships. He could try to pursue a world and or Olympic team. Like, there's a hierarchy, there's an architecture, and if your name gets spit out at the bottom, as a matter of fact, if you're even gold, silver, or bronze, you qualify as a fighter. What do you have to do? Because I side with Jake on this. How do you say he's not a fighter? He did the fight 4 times against other very good athletes who had the same amount of preparation as he did. And there's a little more to the story. And you can point out the Nate Robinson. You can point out some of the stuff. I understand that. But how do you take that away from Jake? He's a natural power. He's got a natural footwork. He's got a length. He's got very good conditioning, which you can only get by working your ass off. Not to mention his flinches are great. I don't hear people giving him credit for that, but he will flinch and you will react, and that takes a lot of practice. So it kind of comes down to, because Jake said to him, I'll fight anybody you've got, anybody you have under contract. And Eddie Hearn goes, well, that's 400 people. And Jake goes, I'll fight any of them in any weight if they have less than 10 fights. Now, that's another side of Jake that must continue to be told. The Jake Paul story does not work unless he continues to add that, where he makes himself vulnerable, where he acknowledges, I am not the new Sugar Ray Leonard. When Jake comes out and says anybody under 10 fights, could be a smaller guy, could be a bigger guy, as long as they're limited in experience, I'll knock him out. Now, whether he will or not, whether he can or can't, you're now seeing an authentic attitude, which we do want to see. We don't want to see workers. We don't want to see performers. We'll go watch WWE for that. We want to see somebody that really does want to compete, to attempt to try to prove something, to prove they're tough, to prove a point, to prove their love for the sport. They got to be able to prove something. And this is just, I thought it really came through well when Jake was speaking about it. Now, I have shared with you guys until I'm blue in the face. Jake Paul is the most feared person in boxing. He's the feared person in boxing, not because these guys that are boxing and have a dream and they want to be a main event, or they want to be on Showtime, or they want to have press conferences, they want to have some media attention, they want to get a whole bunch of money. They don't want to take the risk of going in and losing to a guy that their own community has dismissed. It is as simple as that. I realize that Willfleury keeps calling him out. I get that. Please don't think you need to correct me, because I'm going to throw it right back in your face that Jake accepted the call out, signed the contract, and showed up that night. Will didn't. It's relevant. Stop. You got to stop. That is settled business. That is behind us. And I don't see any other boxer, because Jake made an announcement over the weekend. He announced when he's returning to boxing. Just so you understand this timeline, when Jake left to go and help promote Amanda or Katie, whichever gal was his, he said, I'm going to stop everything until she gets this great big business done at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to put all my energy into preparing her and also building her. Well, the second she was done, he then came in and said, guess what? I'm back. And he's even got a date. A main event. You tell me anybody else that can sit down on Showtime with Errol Hawani and Eddie Hearn. Nobody. So now I've proven we have a star here. I'm proven we have a commodity. But he also announced when he's going to fight. Very specifically. You know what he didn't include in that announcement? Who? What weight class? And you want to know why he didn't include that? He doesn't know. He doesn't have an opponent. He doesn't have an opponent because my original premise is true. He's the most feared man in boxing. If he would have pulled that in MMA, oh my God, we would have jumped on it. And by we all personally, I would have been all over that. I would have attached my name to that. I would have had my graphic designer make a poster. I would have dropped it as though it was the UFC. I would have spread the rumor. I would have gone out and got the fight. Nobody's even called him out. Nobody's even tweeted they want to be that partner. All of a sudden, all these tough guys in boxing, all of a sudden, all 400 guys that Eddie Hearn's got under contract that he just gave a verbal agreement that he will, all of a sudden, they're all busy in September. It's a very interesting thing. And if we're just going to hate on Jake, okay. But if we're going to be a little bit more reasonable, Jake is doing his side of it. He is. MMA guys don't give a damn. Greatest trick Dana White ever pulled is making losing acceptable. It's okay. You can get beat. MMA guys won't back down just because they know they're the B-side. They will show up anyway. They'll use it in experience. They'll try to get better. They'll propel themselves into something else. Boxing has made losing unacceptable. And these guys are so scared that they're going to lose to Jake that they will put all of their dreams on hold. There's not one of those boxers out there that could get in there with Jake, and this is Will included, in the entire body of his career that will make more money than he could in that one night. You would think that would get you through some anxiety, right? You would think that great big pot of gold will make the risk worth it. Apparently not.